Hi, I'm James McGuire, and on today's eSpeaks, we're talking about a topic that's getting a lot of attention these days, which is artificial intelligence in the enterprise. We'll talk about the current market, we'll look at how to handle some challenges, and we'll also get a forecast of future trends in AI. To discuss all that, I'm joined by Ryan Steelberg, president of Veritone. Ryan, good to have you with us today.
James, great to be here. Thank you.
And of course, we are in some very busy days here as the holidays approach. How are you keeping up with the pace of life these days?
It's the busiest. Usually this week, business starts to slow down a little bit, right? I think everybody's scrambling, with, I think the calendaring of this year, a lot of kids and families are getting off the beginning of next week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then a full week before Christmas. So this is it, we like to say, with our teams and everybody. This is really the end of the week. You got to get all your stuff done. And obviously we're sitting here on the Friday before really a lot of kids are, and others are looking to actually start going on break. So it's been busy, but the business activity has been incredible. And particularly in the tech AI space. So, we'll talk a lot about that. But again, I'm seeing a tremendous amount of effort for corporations, particularly for those who, let's say, haven't jumped in with both feet yet and started to make their initial bets and investments into incorporating AI machine learning into their enterprise. They're damn well making sure that it's in the budgets, right? Because we're in budget season, and a lot of people are feeling at times that they know their competitors and potentially some of their larger partners have made those investments and starting to see the rewards. So you're seeing other groups scrambling at a minimum to make sure that at least the budgets are getting allocated.
Really interesting. Okay, so obviously the companies are looking at AI and they're saying we've got to get aboard that train. We've thought about it for years, and it's now absolutely the time. I guess on that note, I'd love to get your sense of what is your assessment of the enterprise AI market now? For some companies, it feels like it's been an expensive science experiment. They put some cash into it, hasn't quite worked out. Others are having some success. How do you see the market these days?
I think people are still at times confused, what exactly is AI machine learning to the enterprise? I think for the super majority of companies who are, let's say, are not trying to radically change their business, they're trying to, let's say, greatly improve their business. AI still starts with, don't stop stressing about what AI machine learning can do until you really have a great sense of your own data assets, right? Machine learning and AI, with the independent, outside of like robotics and other things, is really about leveraging, and it's built upon data. So if corporations, again, don't become or have not already made the digital transformation, become a data-driven business, don't even worry about AI machine learning. So number one, I keep enforcing is nobody is looking to buy 2 scoops of AI, right? It's not, it's a tool, right? If you don't have a great game plan to build the house, yes, it makes a lot of sense to use a different tool. AI is an incredible tool, but you still need to have a very clear strategy of what you're trying to achieve. Some people think of it as this mystical bot, right, that will drop into your database and it'll magically surface novel new concepts, right, and efficiencies. It's not how it works. So I'd like to say is for groups who have already made the investments to become data-driven businesses, they've already done the digital transformation, meaning they're running, they already moved all their data legacy assets to the cloud. Those groups are at a much more strategic position to really capitalize on what machine learning AI can do. Whether that's, again, to find new trends, right? Do prediction, create more business efficiencies inside the organization, resource process optimization, all these things. But again, start with data focus first, make sure your company is really embracing that, and then strategically start thinking, okay, what do I now need to apply AI machine learning to actually take us to the next level?
Yeah, it's really interesting the point you make in terms of that a company has to be data driven in the first place. AI is not this magic box, and that AI devours an enormous amount of data. So if you don't have that fire hose, so to speak, aimed at your AI deployment, it can't do anything anyway. So it's a really interesting point. What you've talked a bit about the challenges then. If you see companies struggling with AI, what is a typical challenge, and how do you advise handling this challenge?
So I think there are some great off-the-shelf solutions of AI they can buy, and so they can start getting exposure to it. So for example, conversational AI for customer support, right?
Right, chatbots.
chatbots, right? And why that's a good case. There's a lot of companies that offer that solution, right? It's asynchronous. I can add it on to my web properties or whatnot. But what's imperative is when that type of solution is being implemented, I personally believe that even all the way to the C-suite, they need to watch that implementation, right? Because what that implementation is doing is for you to create a great chatbot experience, for a good customer support experience, you have to do data integration, right? That bot needs to be built on a knowledge graph, right? Mm-hmm. A knowledge graph has to pull from data, right, from your business. So if I'm sitting here and you're a bot and I'm talking to you, and I start to ask questions about this new offer, right? The response is going to a database that's your proprietary data. So the point is that is like a microcosm of all the other things that corporations can do, right? So meaning that they understand how this piece of AI took advantage of a data set that they had in their company, right? It's like a precursor or gives them insight of, hey, wait a minute, what if I shift this to our accounting system, right? Can I try to optimize my AP processing, right? And is there something, because if they understand, okay, here's the bot, here's the model, you have to build a knowledge graph, you have to understand your data first, and then you can tune and optimize that conversational AI, then they will have perspective. So my point is, jump in there, find solutions that truly are AI, like chatbots and others, start to play with them, experience them, learn what they do, and then it'll give companies better perspective, right? What they could do across the rest of the enterprise.
You're really saying educate yourself a bit first before you jump in with both feet.
And I think C-suite's got to get more involved. It's not that complicated. This is not, we're not talking about, derivative blockchain here. I mean, this is relatively, and it can't be relegated just to the IT department, right? Mm-hmm. This is not the domain, right? AI machine learning, again, is a tool, but the C-suite really knows, okay, this is the type of house we're going to be built, right? That's not that. What type of house we're going to be building is not, as designed by the framer, right, of the house. So C-suite needs to personally make sure they have a clear understanding of what are we trying to achieve here, and how does AI machine learning work. Do not just let it be relegated to the IT department.
All right, let's look at Veritone itself. I mean, what sets Veritone apart as a provider of enterprise AI? I mean, what sector or area does the company focus on the most?
I think first is we took a kind of an agnostic approach to really build a platform that would allow us to really service a multitude of different use cases. Meaning, we were seeing historically, and you were talking about a lot of companies who got in early on AI got burned, right? They invested tons of money, and primarily, think of it as they were building a hard-coded application end-to-end to try to do like one specific use case, right? And I'm going to break down AI. It's pretty, and this is, oversimplifying it, but
sure.
First you need an ingestion layer, right? I need to somehow get the data that I want to act upon, right, to apply the AI machine learning to. I have to get that into my equation. It could be in the cloud, it could be on-prem, number one. Number two is once that data is ingested, you then need to create what we call like an intelligent data lake, right? And Snowflake, I don't really care where that data lake is sitting, but it's got to be consolidated. And we also suggest is you may not think all these different data, throw everything in there. It's so cheap at times, right? Don't try to have 50 different databases all set up. Have a secure data lake, throw everything in there. And then think about the workflows, right? How do I turn now this data applied with AI machine learning into value? What's the workflow and applications, right, that will allow me to go optimize my accounts payable, allow me to go optimize my screen time for that video distribution, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So where we set out differently is instead of building like a hard-coded end-to-end app, frankly, what groups like IBM and others were doing early on, like 10, 15 years ago, it's modular. So now we're generic. We can take in any form of data, right? That could be linear audio and video content. It could be, again, financial logs, right? Really, so being flexible, and this is what really sets Veritone and aiWARE apart, is the ability to, in a flexible and dynamic nature, ingest both batch data and stream-based data. Number one. Two, we allow you, if you don't have your own data lake, you haven't made the investment in S3 AWS or Databricks or Snowflake, Veritone organically we can create that for you, right? So we create an intelligent data lake for our customers, meaning their data is sitting in either our tenant or deployment of aiWARE in their own tenant. And that's where all the data results. But, and this is where we like to say this, that's just preparing the opportunity. Veritone has a very robust suite of tools to then allow you to build applications and workflows on the stack, right? All in the same framework. So data, so an ingestion layer, the ability to build an intelligent data lake, and then a user-friendly tool set to build workflows and applications that ultimately is what delivers the real value to the end customer. We're one of the very few customer companies that allow you to do that entire end-to-end opportunity. But we're flexible. So the point is, if you come up with a new idea, right, and if you want to shift to a radical new data structure that you want to try to start working against, you don't have to throw away the whole system and start from scratch, right? Because that's the flexible nature of AIware in that sense.
Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that the key word I think I'm hearing is the word modular. So certain company might build this function, and another company could build a number of other module elements built together. So different company deployments are going to look very different then.
100%. And let's talk about the sensitivity of different types of data, right? We do a lot of work with federal, state, local law enforcement and the federal government. Very sensitive data. They do not want some of those data sitting in, let's say, a public AWS data lake. Mm-hmm. So in the modular sense, is Veritone can actually be deployed in a FedRAMP, right? I'll say a very high secure cloud offering of the federal government, right? So you can in that area, in terms of being modular, the data lake can be in a very secure environment. And then you can still run the other components of Veritone, like the cognitive layer, invoking and running the AI machine learning, right? Through potentially even a public cloud environment. So meaning it's modular. We have also customers that we take the entire stack, and I can put the entire stack even on-prem, right? So modular in a sense is people are going to show up. They've already made investments into S3. They've already made investments into Snowflake. You don't have to throw that away and recreate a new data lake with Veritone. We can use that one portion of the equation. We can actually integrate seamlessly but securely with those other data silos.
Mm-hmm. That's fascinating and really clear too. It makes sense to me. Let's look ahead to the future. I mean, say if we're middle of the decade, 2025 or so. I mean, what does the future of enterprise AI look like a few years out? I mean, is there a milestone, or really the question is, how can companies get ready now?
Well, I think what you're going to see is all successful businesses are going to not just ingest the data, have AI applied into it, meaning it's going to be fundamental part of their processes. But I think it's going to go from a supervised perspective, meaning, yes, we've built this system, but I still have people looking at it like, is that tweaking it? I think over that period of time, it's going to be unsupervised, right? You're going to let the machines for obviously trusted processes take off the shackles and let it run, right? And that in terms of predictions, right? In all different derivative forms. I think I kind of make an analogy of the Tesla car, right? We all bought the Tesla car, and some of us had confidence. I had no idea they went to sleep and let the car drive by himself, right? The super majority were like sitting there with sweaty palms, like ready to take it. So think of that AI machine learning. When people have confidence in it, then I think the magic and hyperscale is going to occur, right? Because they're going to take off the shackles and let the models run and also learn by themselves and really advance it. So I think that's going to be a big thing for a lot of other companies. And then I think you'll start to see just hardening of and making more accessible and extensible some of the current versions of AI deployments today. Conversational AI is going to be, I think, just a whole nother level of organic conversation, right? It's going to, with natural language understanding and NLP, I think that whole category is going to be really seamless. It's not going to be as awkward, cause and effect in a weird conversation. I think it's going to be really almost seamless. And I think also the ability to introduce kind of these chat bots and other opportunities, we're going to see significant advancements of them really understanding the question that I'm asking and being able to apply, right, my proprietary data set and my answers to that environment. And I think you're going to see, again, significant improvements in just a lot of the limited applications of AI that we're experiencing today.
It's really interesting about the unsupervised piece. I think companies may not be totally aware that, I mean, they may be glimpsing of it, but not really know that this can be highly unsupervised, and the machines and the systems and the algorithms can learn by themselves, and you can be surprised by what they do. That to me really is the next revolution as I see it.
I mean, I mean, that's the whole benefit here of, when we started with computational, advancements with the computer, obviously now we're in the cognitive realm. So, I mean, that's the whole point here is we're trying to, the implementation of these systems and these machines and these models, AI machine learning models, is to allow us to really attack larger problems and do it faster and more efficiently. Only if you have a human in the loop, which we like to say, if there's too many humans in the loop, by default, you're going to inhibit it. Now, get me wrong. At this stage, you still need like choke points, right? You need checks and balances of that. And so I think that's going to be critical. But I mean, for, again, certain processes, I think that, again, that's where the magic happens is now, guys, let's throw everything in the kitchen sink. Because the first person, let's say I'll make it simple, is optimizing video distribution. What's the right video to serve the consumer at the right time? Let's hypothetically say Netflix that says, we're done having humans doing it. Let's just take off the shackles, let the systems learn and optimize it, right? Proof is in the pudding, right? More time spent viewing videos. So I think there are companies already that have taken and jumped in with both feet for at least certain applications that have introduced unsupervised, and they're seeing incredible increase in yield and performance.
Interesting. Ryan, I think you said it. It's going to be a really interesting sector to follow. Thanks a lot for sharing your thoughts today. Totally appreciate it.
James, thank you. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. Thank you.
Happy holidays to you. Yep.